Hello everyone and welcome back to another deck guide, this time featuring the Dancing Maidens of the Battle Phase, the Lunalights. This is an old archetype that has recently received a whole bunch of support and is focused on fusion summons as well as incidentally being able to make rank 4 XZs quite easily. They are very good at OTKing the opponent and is something of a tower deck, especially now with our newest boss monster. So, if putting unbeatable, scary-looking women on the field sounds fun to you, then let's get started. First up's Gold Leo, which allows you to add any Lunalight from deck to hand and then discard a card. This is one of our new 15 one-card starters with the new support, whereas this deck previously had 0 true one-card starters. So it has gained just a massive boost in consistency with that, and Gold Leo might be the best one. That discard is also relevant because this is something of a graveyard deck, and a lot of our cards have effects when sent to graveyard by card effect. The text by card effect is quite relevant in this deck, and you'll see why as we go along. So, just being able to discard but also get exactly what you need allows you to either Foolish Burial or fix your hand, and it's great. And that's not even all it does, because Gold Leo also says if a Lunalight monster is sent to the graveyard while this card is in the monster zone, you can target one of them and add it back to hand. That allows us to do some fun things, like Foolish Burialing a card that we need and then just immediately adding it to hand. Things like that. Then we play one Silverhound. Silverhound says if this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can special summon a Lunalight from your deck, but you can only summon Lunalight fusions from the extra deck while that card is on the field. So very powerful, very potent extender, but it forces you to do a fusion summon. This deck has previously been used just as a rank 4 engine, and I guess they're trying to nip that in the bud with Silverhound's powerful effect. This card also, while it is in the graveyard, if your opponent activates a spell or trap and you have a fusion monster in the graveyard as well, you can banish both this and a Lunalight fusion to negate their spell or trap. So it is a disruption once it has done its job, and we do incidentally put fusions in the graveyard in this deck. Then we play one Tiger. If you have not played against Tiger yet, you won't understand exactly how terrifying this card is, because if you scale it, you can once per turn reborn a Lunalight from your graveyard, but it can't attack, its effects are negated, and it's destroyed during the end phase. Well, what good is that? Well, obviously you can use it for material, but you may be missing the fact that the once per turn is soft. That means that if you have ways to bounce Lunalight Tiger, and oh we do in this deck, you can use that effect multiple times in the same turn. You can routinely Tiger 3 times for 3 reborns in one turn in this deck now, and it is so killer. But it is highly searchable, it is not a starter, it is just an extender, so we just play the one. We also play one Kaleido Chick, so Kaleido Chick also is highly searchable and a killer extender because soft once per turn again. You can send a Lunalight from deck or extra deck to the graveyard and make this card's name become that monster's name for a fusion summon this turn. The important thing is that the send, the Foolish Burial, is at cost. That means even if you bring this back off of Tiger and its effects are negated, you can still activate the effect and do the cost. It just won't gain that creature's name. So, which is not the important part of the effect anyways. Pretty great. Also, if this card is sent to the graveyard by card effect, which a fusion summon counts as a card effect, that is why they have all of this text, you can add Poly from grave back to hand, and then if this card gets banished, your opponent can activate cards or effects during battle phase this turn to help you go for the kill. Not a starter and very searchable, so we just play the one. We also play 2 Lunalight Black Sheep because Lunalight Black Sheep can discard to either add a Lunalight monster from grave back to hand or add a Poly from deck to hand, so it is a searchable in-archetype way to get to polymerization to do fusion summons. And then if you use this card as material for a fusion summon, you can add a Lunalight monster back from grave to hand. Not super relevant, but important to keep an eye on. Not a starter, incredible extender, and very necessary to see, so we do play the 2. We also play one Yellow Marten. Yellow Marten, if it is in hand or graveyard, so if you Foolish Burial it off of Kaleido Chick, you can bounce one of your Lunalight cards on the field to hand to special summon her, but she will banish if she leaves the field. That's okay because you can use her as rank 4 XZ's material, and then due to the game rules, anything used as XZ's material is not considered on the field, but also hasn't left the field, so she doesn't get banished. even if you like detach her from the Xyz for some reason, she still just goes straight to graveyard. It nullifies that effect for some reason. And then if this card is sent to graveyard by card effect, you can add a Lunalight spell from deck to hand. Didn't used to be super useful because the only good target was Lunalight Fusion, but now we have a much better one, so that is a much more relevant effect. We play one Lunalight Wolf because this allows you to Miracle Fusion. If you Pendulum Scale Wolf, you can banish cards from your graveyard to fusion summon a monster from your extra deck, and that is a soft once per turn. We don't really want to be doing this multiple times a turn, but just be aware that you can. It's possible to do. And if you put her on the field somehow, she also gives all of your Lunalights piercing, which is relevant in case someone's trying to like crooked cook lock you or something. We also play Lunalight Perfume at 3 now, so this card was previously not searchable because for some reason they put a space in between Luna and Light. That means it's not archetypal and does not count as a Lunalight spell. But it does allow you to reborn a Lunalight monster from your graveyard, and then you can banish it from graveyard, discard a card to add a Lunalight from deck to hand, which is 2 very potent extension effects, and neither one is once per turn. It is now searchable, so we want to abuse the crap out of this card because it is so good. Then we play the one of the aforementioned Lunalight Fusion. This allows you to polymerize just like normal polymerization would. It allows you to summon a Lunalight Fusion using your hand or field, but if the opponent happens to have an extra deck monster on their field, say if we're going second, you can also use a Lunalight monster in your extra deck as material. That's very important because it takes us a number of steps normally to get to our biggest boss monster. This allows us to just skip all of it and go straight into her to wipe the board and be a giant tower and blah blah blah. We'll get to that in the extra deck. But it is situational. You have to be going second. It's very... I guess it's good against Canine Vanquish Soul when that starts because they'll summon a rank 5 on your turn, then you can just Lunalight Fusion. That's kind of funny, and I just thought of that. But most of the time, this is not going to be super relevant going first, so we just play one, and it is searchable off of Martin if we already happen to draw a Lunalight Masquerade. Masquerade is one of our 1-card starters, so we play it at 3, and it is a continuous spell that allows you to send a Lunalight from deck to the graveyard. And then if you fusion summon a Lunalight monster, you can add a Poly back from graveyard or banishment to hand, and then discard a card. And if you choose to discard the card, which is optional, you can Miracle Fusion once this turn. If you choose to use the polymerization to fusion summon a Lunalight monster, you can banish stuff from your graveyard as material, or still use it from field and hand like normal. So that is just another great way to skip steps to get into our biggest boss monster, in addition to being a 1-card starter, because you can just send Silverhound summons Gold Leo from deck, and you're off to the races. So very, very killer new card. And then you can also just like bounce it for Yellow Martin's effect, because it's a continuous spell, so once you've used both effects, you can just bounce it, and then you could even discard it for, say, a Lunalight Perfume after using it and then bouncing it. It's just invaluable to the deck. Then I'm playing one Serenade Dance. You can ignore most of the text on this card. The only relevant bit is this last paragraph here, where during your main phase you can banish this from your graveyard, send a card from hand to graveyard, which is an effect, mind you, and then if you do, special summon a Lunalight from your deck. So that makes this a 1-card starter if you Foolish Burial Goods it from deck, because Foolish Burial Goods just sends a spell trap from deck to the graveyard. So that, by playing one Serenade Dance, 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods become 1-card starters. That's why I play this package, whereas I haven't seen it in every list I've seen, just because people don't like the Garnet. But Serenade Dance can just get sent off of other things too if you open it. It's not that difficult to use a Lunalight Perfume to discard Serenade Dance, and then you can use its effect anyways. So I don't think it's too bad to have in the deck, in exchange for having 3 more 1-card starters. Then we play 3 Tri-Brigade Fractals, more starters, because you can discard this from your hand to send a level 3 or lower Beast Warrior from deck to the graveyard. That's going to be Silverhound, which then again special summons the Gold Leo and you're off to the races. It also has a second effect where if it's on the field, you can banish 2 monsters from grave to special summon Cross Sheep. Not super relevant in this deck because we don't put it on the field very often. Just know it's 3 more copies of Foolish Burial. Then we play 3/5 formation Tenkies because when it's activated you can add a level 4 or lower Beast Warrior from deck to the hand. Everything in our main deck is a level 4 or lower Beast Warrior besides Wolf, and you're not ever wanting to get Wolf off of Tenki, so this counts as a starter. And then you also get 100 attack on all of your Beast Warriors while it's on the field, which is not super relevant, but it's something. Then we play 1 OG Polymerization because it is very searchable thanks to Black Sheep and Black Sheep itself being searchable, and we really need it because we can loop it with Masquerade and Kaleido Chick to just get a bunch of fusion summons. We play 1 Foolish Burial because it's a 1-card starter by sending Silverhound, and it is limited to 1, so we cannot play the full 3. We play the 3 Foolish Burial Goods for the Serenade Dance, and then we play 15 non-engine in this deck. I am running a little bit over 40, because as you can probably tell, we have things like Tiger, Kaleido Chick, Martin, Wolf that we're not super excited to have in our opening hand. Even though we have a ton of starters, that just means that we can play a little over 40 and reduce the chances of seeing things we don't want to. The actual lineup of non-engine is pretty standard. We've got the Fuas and the Drolls. I run a Crossout Designator, which means I also run 1 Nib, 1 Ash to hit off Crossout Designator. The only important thing here is the copy of Harpy's Featherstorm and 3 Triple Tactics Thrust. We can do the same thing Ryziel does, where if we're interrupted but we manage to put 2 level 4 bodies on the field, we can slap them into Castel the Skyblaster Musketeer, which is a Wind-Winged Beast, and then we can set Harpy's Featherstorm off of a Thrust, or if we open Harpy's Featherstorm, we can still set it then, which allows us to negate the opponent's entire turn, so that we can come back to ours and say, okay, you better have more disruptions in hand because you didn't do anything last turn, and we can actually kill you this time. On to the extra deck, we play 2 of the new Lunalight Perfume Dancer, and Perfume Dancer allows you to search specifically Lunalight Perfume. So it is now searchable in addition to just being a killer extender, and we can implement it consistently into certain combos. So if this card is Fusion Summon, which only requires any 2 Lunalights, so this one is very simple to make, you can add Lunalight Perfume, and then you can also bounce a Lunalight card you control on the field, and then special summon 1 from hand if you want to. So this allows you to reset Tiger, bounce it to hand, and then if you have something you want to summon, you can do that too. Like if you, say, have Kaleido Chick stuck in your hand and Tiger on the field, you can bounce the Tiger, summon the Kaleido Chick, then you get to reuse Kaleido Chick and reuse the Tiger again. It's just super killer. And then in the graveyard, you can banish it to make the opponent lose attack equal to the defense of each of their monsters. So just makes it easier to go in for the 1-turn kills. That's what most of our fusions are focused on. But you can also just use it as material after you've done the first 2 effects, and then leave it in the graveyard for Silverhound to banish for that negate. Very versatile card. Then we play 1 Lunalight Saber Dancer. We don't summon this terribly often, but it is a big beefy body. It requires any 3 Lunalight monsters, and you can only fusion summon it, you can't reborn it or anything. And it gains 200 attack for each Beast Warrior that is banished or in the graveyard. So that means that this thing can easily reach like 5,000 attack because all of our stuff is Beast Warriors. It's also untargetable. It's not indestructible or anything, so it's a tower light, but untargetable is still good. And then, during the main phase except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, unfortunately, you can banish it, target one of your Lunalight fusions, and give it 3,000 attack until the end of turn, which makes OTKing trivial. So you want to send this off of Kaleido Chick or off of our new boss monster on your first turn or on the opponent's turn, and then on your second turn, you can use that second effect to make something incredibly lethal. It also just is another card that you can banish for Silverhound if you need to use that effect. Then we play 2 Lunalight Leo Dancer, mostly as a requirement for Lunalight Liger Dancer, which is our true boss monster, but this card is also very killer. It used to be the boss monster of this deck. Because she cannot be targeted or destroyed by opponent's card effects, she can attack twice each battle phase, which with 3,500 attack, that's pretty chunky, especially even better if we use Saber Dancer on her. And then once per turn, if she destroys an opponent's monster in battle, you can destroy all of the opponent's special summon monsters. So she swings once, blows up the entire board, swings again for 35 minimum. Quite good. We can't actually summon her in this deck because I'm not playing the one of Lunalight Panther Dancer that is required for her effect. We're instead using her by sending her off of Kaleido Chick as material to go into Liger Dancer. So Liger Dancer requires the Leo Dancer and any 3 other Lunalight monsters, and again must be fusion summoned with the above materials, which means you cannot cheat into her off of something like a Mudragon, which is always a good sign for the power level of a card. Because Liger Dancer is unaffected by all card effects except Lunalight ones, so you can still use Saber Dancer on her, but your opponent cannot say like Nibiru or Raigeki her. That's also a very unique effect because it stops your negative effects from affecting her. That's not normal. Normally on a tower it will say unaffected by opponent's card effects. She's unaffected by your card effects unless they're Lunalight cards, which allows us to do some silly things. She also inherits Leo Dancer's ability to attack twice during each battle phase, and once per turn you can send a Lunalight monster from extra deck, so one of our fusions, to the grave to destroy all of your opponent's special summon monsters. So she's just really an upgraded version of Leo Dancer that requires more effort to get into, but being able to quick effect wipe the opponent's board while also being an unaffected tower, while also having a combo to get into 2 of her on your first turn off of 1 card is so good. She's probably one of the best boss monsters in the game now. Speaking of things that Liger Dancer's unaffected by, we play a Bagooska because it's a generic rank 4 that, if it's in defense position, puts all monsters on the field into defense position and negates their activated effects. So you can summon Liger Dancer in attack position, make a Bagooska, put that in defense position, and so the entire board is now locked down except your Liger Dancer because Liger Dancer is unaffected by Bagooska. It's killer. Being able to use Bagooska not just to ride out a failed turn, but also as an end board floodgate piece is unique to this deck, and I think that's really cool. Then we play 1 outer entity Nyarla, because this is a generic rank 4 that you can make with any 2, and then as a weird effect, we don't care about changing its Xyz rank, but you can target a monster in your graveyard, detach materials from this card, then attach whatever you targeted. That's important because the detaching is not at cost for his effect, its effect, their effect. You detach 2 as a card effect, which means that if you overlay something like a Yellow Marten, you can detach them and it will trigger Yellow Marten's search. It's just weird and necessary for certain combo lines to have this card in your deck, but after that you can just use it as link material. That's all it really does. We then play the aforementioned Castel, mostly here just to turn on Harpy's Featherstorm, but it does have Disruption. It's not quick effect, but it's still fine going second. You can detach a material to Book of Moon 1 monster on the field, and you can detach 2 to shuffle 1 card from field into the deck. Those are like pretty good board-breaking effects on top of enabling Harpy's Featherstorm. Not a bad card to have. Then we play 1 Brotherhood of the Firefist Tiger King because it requires 2 level 4 Beast Warriors, which all of our stuff again is Beast Warriors and most of it's level 4. And then when you summon this, you can set a Fire Formation from deck, which is going to be Fire Formation Tenki, so we can use that for extension. And then you can also detach a material from this to negate the effects of all face-up monsters on the field besides Beast Warriors. So if you're going second, you can go into Tiger King and negate all of the opponent's effects to try and like force them out before you go into your actual combo, which is pretty cool because it also just is extension. And then once you've used both of those effects, you can use it as link material to go into a Proxy F Magician, which is basically just polymerization, but you have to use stuff from field, but you can go into it with just any 2 effect monsters. The point of playing Proxy F is in case the opponent knows what you're doing and they stop you from getting to poly and you don't have poly or fusion in hand, any 2 materials can just become a polymerization. It's a worse version of it, but it still gets you off to the races. We play 1 SP Little Knight because sometimes we have 2 extra link materials and it allows you to banish 2 things, and that's pretty good. We play a Cross Sheep because you can make Cross Sheep with any 2 materials, and then when a monster is special summoned to an arrow it's pointing to, you get to, because we only play fusions, we only care about the fusion effect of Cross Sheep. So you summon this pointing to one of your fusion monsters and then special summon something to its other arrow, which then lets you reborn a level 4 or lower monster from graveyard as extra material. And then normally if we get an extra material, off of Cross Sheep, we're using it to go into the new Ziliphthonia Gorgon, because this requires 2+ effect monsters. It is a link 3, so we could use whatever we summon off Cross Sheep and the Cross Sheep itself to lock down 3 of the opponent's zones, because all of its arrows point forward, and if something gets summoned to an arrow that it's pointing to, all of its effects are negated, and she gets attack equal to the attack of the monster she's pointing to. She can't be destroyed by battle if she's pointing to nothing, so they can't just like summon something in one of their 2 free zones and then swing over her. They have to get rid of her, or 3 of their zones are locked down, and that is crippling to certain decks. So she's just a good generic link 3 for decks that do not really use that many links, or maybe use them for certain effects like Cross Sheep and Proxy F, but don't really need to keep them around. You can then link into Gorgon. And that's going to do it for the actual deck, and in my sideboard I just have a few options you can play. I don't like Imperm as much anymore, but you could play one for the Crossout Designator target if people are still playing it in your meta. It's not like a trash card, it's just kind of in that room with Ash where it doesn't do enough to actually stop an opponent anymore. We also could play more board breakers. This deck is very good at killing people. The problem with going second and building a very going second focused version of the deck is it's fairly interruptible. We have to do big long combos, and our extension tools are not the best. All of our starters are not also extenders, and our extenders are kind of situational, so we don't really love playing a full ongoing second version of the deck, but if you wanted to try it, you could play some board breakers. Heavy Poly is a card that got expensive because this support was coming out. I'm still not convinced, but it allows you to fusion summon using 3 monsters from hand or field, and you can use monsters from extra deck, but you lose life equal to the attack of the monsters you banish. So in our case, you would be summoning Liger Dancer, which requires Leo Dancer, so you'd lose 3,500, and you can only do that if you're going second. Again, I didn't want to build a pure going second version of the deck, so Heavy Poly is just worse than regular Poly in this build. But it is still a good option if you want to try and do a going second board breaker version of Lunalight. You can also play things like Droplet. Droplet is good first or second. The biggest issue and the reason that it's not killer in this deck is that it sends at cost, which means we don't trigger any of our send by card effect things. But just be aware, especially if you're going second, these are tools that you want to be using. And so that's going to do it for the deck profile, guys. Let's get into some overly long, complicated combos. Alright, starting off our 1-card combos with Gold Leo. Just as a note, all of the combos for this deck are going to be 1.5 card combos. That's just kind of how it works out. But remember that you can often get value by discarding cards from hand in this one, so it's not too bad that you need an extra card for everything. Here we go. So we're going to normal summon Gold Leo, and Gold Leo is going to add Martin and then discard Martin. Martin allows us to search Masquerade. This is going to be the simplest of our combos. We activate Masquerade. Masquerade lets us dump Silver Hound, which lets us special summon the Kaleido Chick and get Foolish Burialing. We send our Black Sheep so that we can add it back off of Gold Leo's effect, and then discard it again for Poly. We can then activate Poly to get Perfume Dancer, which is going to search Lunalight Perfume, and we get back Poly off of our Lunalight Masquerade, discarding a card so that we can Miracle Fusion. We use Perfume to summon back Chick, and then Chick sends our Leo Dancer. We can then banish our Lunalight Perfume, discard a card to add back a card. Tiger starts reborning things. We activate Poly to go into our first Liger Dancer with 4 cards on field, and then we can get back Poly using Kaleido Chick's effect and activate it again, Miracle Fusioning into a second Liger Dancer. So this is our, like I said, this is our simplest 1-card combo, just Gold Leo, and it gets us into 2 board wipes, 2 big old towers. You could, in theory, if you didn't want to do the 2 Liger Dancers, you could use the extra materials to go into like an SP and a Baguska with 1 Liger Dancer. Might be the better call, but 2 board wipes and 2 towers is quite difficult unless the opponent is packing a Lava Golem. Cool, cool. Alright, next up is going to be our Masquerade 1-card combo. Same thing, we want a discard. This is also going to be a very weird looking line. And just as a note, I send the Crimson Fox from deck to graveyard at some point. I'm no longer playing that card, it never really came up in play, and it's not relevant to the combo. Just be aware you don't get jump scared by Fox. Cool, let's go. So we're going to activate Masquerade and use its effect to send Silver Hound from deck to the graveyard, which is going to trigger and allow us to special summon Gold Leo from deck, which will allow us to grab Yellow Marten and discard our Called By or any other card, so we can normal summon Kaleido Chick because we haven't done that yet, to send Black Sheep to get it back from Gold Leo, discard it again to add Polymerization, and then we can go into Perfume Dancer. That's going to trigger Perfume Dancer to add Lunalight Perfume, and Masquerade will add Poly and discard Poly. You'll see why later. Then we can use Perfume to bring back Kaleido Chick to send Marten, and we can use Marten's effect to bounce Masquerade to add herself back, go into Nyarla, detach 2 materials so that Marten triggers and the Kaleido Chick triggers, which gets us both our Poly back and Serenade Dance, so we can discard Serenade Dance to Lunalight Perfume to add Tiger. Tiger brings back Chick. This is where we can send our Leo from the extra deck, and then we can go into Cross Sheep, Tiger again, Tiger brings back Chick again, which is going to bring back Marten and allow us to send, this is where I send the Crimson Fox, don't worry about it, send anything. And then we can link our materials into Zilliphonia Gorgon, go into Baguska, and use the Poly we've been sitting on to go into Liger Dancer. So this is the other end board that is common to this deck. Sometimes the Gorgon's going to be an SP if you've messed up the combo somewhere along the line. But Baguska plus Liger Dancer is killer, and then the Link is also not affected by Baguska because Links cannot be put into defense position. So everything on this board is live, while anything the opponent tries to do is not. It's pretty killer. Cool, cool. Last up for one-card combos is going to be Serenade Dance via Foolish Burial Goods. This one is really weird and going to require some playing around because we need to use an extra discard. Maybe that's why people don't play this package, just because they don't want to memorize this combo. Oh well, let's go. So we're going to use Goods to send Serenade Dance, and Serenade Dance has to send any card from hand to summon Gold Leo, which will add Yellow Marten and discard the Marten to grab Masquerade. Masquerade then allows us to send Silver Hound from deck to graveyard, which will allow us to special summon our Kaleido Chick. Kaleido Chick can then send the Black Sheep, which we can get back off of Gold Leo, to discard to go into Polymerization. We can use Poly to go into Perfume Dancer to fetch Lunalight Perfume, and Masquerade adds back Poly, discards the Poly immediately. Use the Lunalight Perfume to summon Kaleido Chick so that we can send Leo Dancer to grave. And then we're going to bounce the Masquerade itself so that we can discard it to Lunalight Perfume to grab Tiger so that we can get Reborning. We go into Tiger King to grab Tenki because we're going to need some extra extension here. Again, I grabbed the Crimson Fox. I have since stopped playing it, grab any level 4, so that we can link into Cross Sheep, and then we can summon the Marten by bouncing Tiger, which will also bring back the Kaleido Chick, so we can go into Proxy F. Proxy F allows us to, via Masquerade's effect, summon a Liger Dancer from the graveyard, which is pretty dope. Bring back Chick, use Chick to send a Saber Dancer, go into Gorgon, go into Baguska. Same end board, we just have to take a pretty roundabout way to get there. That's why we're playing things like Proxy F Magician, and Tiger King's generally good, but you actually need it for this combo. Cross Sheep, you need it here. So just be aware there is a reason we're playing some weird stuff. Crimson Fox is a negate. If someone tries to target one of your things, it just never came up, so just play it. Just anytime I use it, send another 4. Cool, cool. And we're back with closing thoughts on our Lunalight deck. So, as far as pros, the deck has one of the best, if not the best, boss monsters in the game that is legal right now, looking at you, Rongo. So that's always an upside for any deck that can get to it. And it's not too difficult to get to. Obviously, we can make 2 of them off of one combo. So that's definitely pro. Other pros is that we have 15 one-card starters and significant room for non-engine, which is good and almost a requirement to be a good deck nowadays. We can also use some weird interactions that other decks don't get to, so it does play differently from a lot of other decks, and I think uniqueness is a point in favor. But for cons, we do have bricks. A lot of decks nowadays play very few, and we've got a decent number of bricks that we just don't want to open, which I would consider a point against it. We're also more interruptible than a lot of decks are these days. While we have a significant number of starters, our extenders are fairly situational, and if we can't put the right card in the graveyard by some means, then something like Lunalight Perfume is not particularly useful as an extender. All of that said, it's a really fun deck, and if you have nostalgia for when it was a good one, or you just like your Monster Girl waifus, then, you know, give it a shot, see if you like it. Just maybe wait until the price comes down on Gold Leo, because its pre-order is a little bit ridiculous. Cool? Cool.